Have you ever caught yourself thinking, too late to change, too late to heal, too late to become who you were meant to be? It's too late for me. That voice, the one that whispers about missed chances, wasted years, irreversible mistakes, is a lie. A subtle one, a seductive one, but a lie all the same. And if you believe it, you give away the greatest truth of life, that as long as you are breathing, it is never too late to begin again. The Stoics knew this well. They taught that each moment is an opportunity for renewal, that the past holds no true power, only the meaning you assign to it, that courage is timeless, and that the choice to rise, to evolve, to align with your highest self is always available here and now. And that's what we're diving into today. If you've ever felt stuck, trapped by regret, by age, by fear, by the weight of should have, this is your call to rise. We'll explore powerful Stoic lessons on rebirth, renewal, and timeless courage, truths that can reshape how you live, no matter where you are on the path. So take a breath and listen closely. The past is over, the future is unwritten, and this moment, right now, is yours to claim. Let's begin. 1. The past has no power unless you let it speak again. We often treat the past as if it's an anchor, heavy, immovable, tied around our neck, dragging us wherever it pleases. We replay old mistakes. We rehearse regrets. We let the ghosts of what could have been dictate what is. But here's the truth. The past holds no actual power. It's not a living force. It's not a chain. It's a memory. And like any memory, its influence over you depends entirely on whether or not you allow it to keep speaking into your present life. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that regret is not a force of destiny. It's recycled pain, a loop of unnecessary suffering. Marcus Aurelius, writing to himself in the pages of Meditations, reminded, "Forget everything else. Keep hold of this alone." To remember that each of us lives only in the present moment, not the past, not even the future, only now. And yet, how many of us voluntarily live as prisoners of the past? We let one failure, one betrayal, one missed opportunity become our life sentence. We allow past events to define us, label us, limit us. But that's a choice, not a fact. You see, the past cannot reach forward on its own. It cannot touch you unless you invite it back in through memory, through rumination, through regret. The Stoic response is simple but powerful. Do not give what is dead the power to rob what is living. Think about this. No matter what happened yesterday, no matter how painful, embarrassing, or costly, it has already happened. It cannot be undone. But what you do now, how you respond now, how you carry yourself now, that is alive. That is within your power. Regret serves no one. Reflection, yes. Learn from your mistakes. Own your story. Extract the wisdom. But once you've learned, you must release it. To continue carrying it is not humility, it's self-punishment. It's chaining yourself to what cannot be changed, and in doing so, abandoning the only thing you can change, the present. There's a moment in every life, often quiet, often unseen, when a person decides, I will not be defined by what I cannot control. I will not allow yesterday's shadows to darken today's light. That moment is the beginning of freedom. Because here's the deeper truth. The past is only as loud as you allow it to be. Silence it by living fully now. Drown it out with action, with growth, with purpose. Show it that its stories no longer govern your life. That you are the author now, not the prisoner. And if the past tries to speak again, if it whispers doubt or shame or limitation, answer it not with argument, but with action, with the next right step, with a life so full, so present, so aligned with who you are becoming, that there's simply no room left for old pain to echo. Ask yourself, where am I still letting the past speak? What old story am I replaying that no longer serves me? What would shift if I chose, right now, to lay it down and step forward? Because you have that power, you always have. The past can only haunt the mind that invites it in. Refuse the invitation. Close the door, stand in the present, and build a life so rich in now that the past becomes what it was always meant to be, a lesson, not a life sentence. Let today be the day you stop living in yesterday. 2. Each day is a new life if you treat it that way. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning not as the same person you were yesterday, not dragging forward every regret, every mistake, every burden, but waking up as if you had been handed an entirely new life. A clean slate, a fresh beginning. What would you do differently? How would you move, think, speak, act, love, decide, if you truly believed that today was your first, and perhaps your last, chance to live fully? The Stoics believed this wasn't just a nice idea, it was reality. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." Not in a morbid sense, but in the sense of urgency, clarity, presence. Death is not a distant event for some far-off day. It is a possibility in every breath, and that is what makes each moment precious. But most people don't live this way. They treat life as an endless rehearsal, as if they have infinite time to get it right. They waste days postponing, complaining, delaying their dreams for a someday that might never arrive. They tell themselves, tomorrow I'll change, next week I'll try, someday I'll start. And in doing so, they squander the only real power they have, this moment. Each day, life offers you a profound gift, a rebirth, an invitation to start again, to redefine yourself, to re-choose your path, to realign with what truly matters. But you have to accept that invitation. You have to treat today not as an extension of yesterday, but as a new life in itself. Think about it. What would shift if you began each morning with the mindset of rebirth? If you asked, what do I want to create today? Who do I want to be today? What small step can I take toward the life I'm capable of living? Because here's the truth. You don't have to be shackled to your past patterns. You don't have to carry yesterday's mistakes. The self you were even 1 hour ago does not have veto power over who you can become now. The Stoic approach is not passive resignation to fate. It's active engagement with possibility. Life isn't owed to you, but it is offered to you moment by moment, breath by breath. What you do with that offering is your responsibility. And there's no need to wait for some grand external change. Rebirth happens in the small choices. The decision to speak kindly rather than react impulsively, to move your body with respect rather than neglect, to show up for your work with focus rather than distraction. Each small act of presence is a declaration. I begin again. I live now. Seneca said it powerfully. Begin at once to live and count each separate day as a separate life. This mindset doesn't just enhance gratitude, it transforms identity. It cuts through the fog of routine and reminds you, you are not stuck. You are not condemned to repeat the past. You are not waiting for permission to change. You are free, right now, to live differently. So ask yourself, if today were truly a new life, how would you treat it? What would you prioritize? What would you release? How would you honor this gift? Because the truth is, it is a new life, and what you do with it will define not just this day, but the entire arc of who you are becoming. Begin again. Begin today. Begin now. 3. You are not your mistakes. You are your next choice. One of the most subtle traps the mind creates is this. It convinces you that you are your past mistakes, that your failures define you, that the wrong turns, the poor decisions, the moments of weakness, they are who you are now and will always be. But that is a lie, a sticky, powerful, persistent lie. And if you buy into it, you condemn yourself to a version of life that no longer fits the person you're capable of becoming. The Stoics rejected this thinking completely. They taught that no identity is permanent because no moment is permanent. Life is constant motion. The only thing that truly defines you is not what you have done. It is what you choose next. The next thought, the next action, the next alignment with your values. That is where your power always lives, not in the rearview mirror, but in the present choice. Seneca wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end," meaning every moment, every breath contains the seed of renewal. You are never trapped unless you believe you are. You are never fixed unless you decide to be. And yet, how many people live chained to old versions of themselves? They replay the breakup, the business failure, the harsh words, the moment they froze in fear instead of acting. And slowly, those moments harden into an identity. I'm not capable. I'm not worthy. I'm not disciplined. But none of that is truth. It's narrative. And narratives can be rewritten the moment you choose to write a new chapter. Think about this. Your next choice is always more powerful than your last mistake. Why? Because the next choice is alive. It is action. It is movement. It is change. The past is dead. It only holds the power you choose to feed it. And here's the deeper wisdom. Mistakes are not enemies. They are teachers. If you choose to learn from them, they become fuel for growth. But if you use them to justify paralysis or self-punishment, they become chains. The Stoic path is simple. Own your mistakes, learn the lesson, release the shame, and move forward with purpose. Because shame is a poor motivator. It keeps you small. It keeps you stuck. Responsibility, on the other hand, is liberating. When you say, "Yes, I chose poorly, and I now choose differently," you reclaim your power. You stop identifying with failure and start identifying with growth. And this applies at every level, from the smallest habits to the biggest life decisions. Maybe yesterday you broke a promise to yourself. Maybe last year you abandoned a dream. Maybe you've spent years drifting from your values. None of that disqualifies you from choosing again, right now. The Stoics remind us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. And that includes the power to choose your next action, no matter how many missteps preceded it. So ask yourself, what mistake are you still carrying as an identity? What old story are you using to justify staying small? And what new choice can you make today to begin rewriting that story? Remember this: you are not your mistakes. You are your next choice, and that next choice is waiting right now for you to claim it. Choose boldly. The past does not own you. Your present actions do. 4. Wisdom begins the moment you stop justifying delay. One of the greatest illusions the human mind creates is the illusion of later. We tell ourselves, "I'll start when things calm down. I'll commit once I feel more ready. I'll change when the timing is better." But beneath these justifications, if you're honest, lives one thing: fear. Fear of discomfort, fear of uncertainty, fear of failure. And so, to mask that fear, the mind becomes clever. It wraps delay in the language of logic. It sounds responsible, thoughtful, but it's not. It's avoidance. And avoidance is the enemy of growth. The Stoics knew this well. They taught that procrastination is not a time problem. It's a courage problem. It's not that you need more time. It's that you need more honesty. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." We do not lack time. We lack the willingness to use it fully now. Think about it. How many things in your life have you delayed, not because you truly needed to, but because facing them would require stepping into discomfort, the hard conversation, the new discipline, the personal boundary, the creative project, the shift in identity? And here's the subtle danger. The more you delay, the more inertia builds. The longer you wait, the heavier the task feels. You begin to identify with the avoidance itself. I'm just not ready. I'm not the kind of person who can do this. And slowly, delay becomes a habit, a way of living. But the Stoic approach is clear. Wisdom is not found in endless preparation. It's found in action, in beginning, in stepping forward before you feel fully prepared, because preparation is not a prerequisite for progress. Action creates clarity. Motion builds readiness. And here's something powerful. When you stop justifying delay, you free an immense amount of energy. Because delay is draining. It clutters your mind. It weighs on your heart. The unfinished conversations, the unpursued goals, the avoided truths, they all create a low-grade anxiety that saps your vitality. But when you choose action, even small action, the energy trapped in delay is released. You begin to feel lighter, clearer, more alive, not because the fear is gone, but because you are moving despite it. And this is wisdom, understanding that life is too short, too precious to live trapped in later, that now, this moment, is always the right time to begin, because perfection is an illusion, readiness is a myth. The ideal moment will never arrive. So the choice is simple: continue justifying delay, or begin now, imperfectly, courageously, humbly. Because once you begin, you discover what the Stoics knew all along. Action is the antidote to fear. And wisdom is not about knowing everything. It's about doing what matters, here and now. So I'll ask you, where in your life are you still justifying delay? What would shift if you chose to stop? If you acted today, even with trembling hands? Remember this: the moment you stop justifying delay is the moment wisdom begins. Not in theory, but in life. Choose that moment now. It is always available to you. 5. Change happens the moment you accept responsibility. It's a simple truth, but one that separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. No real change can begin as long as you're pointing outward, as long as you're blaming the past, your parents, your partner, your boss, the economy, society, fate. As long as responsibility is projected onto forces beyond your control, you will always feel powerless. The Stoics taught this with clarity and urgency. Epictetus said, "Seek not for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do, and you will be content." Why? Because trying to control the uncontrollable leads to frustration. The only real power is in how you respond, and that response begins with accepting responsibility. Now let's be clear, responsibility is not the same as blame. It's not about fault-finding, it's about ownership. You may not be responsible for what happened to you, but you are 100% responsible for what you choose to do next. And that is where all your power lives. But here's where many people get stuck. Blaming feels safer. It preserves the ego. It protects us from the discomfort of saying, I could have chosen differently. I can choose differently now. Because taking responsibility means facing truths we may have avoided for years. It requires courage, and yet, until you take that step, change remains impossible. Because blame locks you into a victim mindset, and victims do not transform. They wait, they hope, they complain. They circle the same patterns, year after year. The moment you say, this is my life, no one is coming to save me, no one owes me the change I seek, I alone must choose it. That is the moment transformation begins. Instantly, the locus of power shifts. You stop waiting for external permission. You stop hoping the world will bend to your will. You start acting from the only place real change occurs, within. And this is where the Stoic mindset becomes a lifelong ally. Because it reminds you, you cannot control everything, but you can always control how you meet what arises. And in choosing your response, you shape your character. Think about any person you admire, not for their fame, but for their depth, their resilience, their integrity. You'll find a common thread. They have accepted full responsibility for their life. Not perfectly, but consistently. They do not waste energy on blame. They focus on what can be done now, from where they are. And here's something else. Responsibility is not a burden, it is freedom. Because when you take ownership, you stop waiting. You stop needing validation or rescue. You become the author of your life. And that is the most empowering role you can play. So I'll ask you now, where are you still pointing outward? What area of your life are you saying, I can't because they won't? Or, if only this hadn't happened? And what would shift if today you said, enough? I own this. I choose my next step. Remember this. Change does not require perfect conditions. It requires responsible action. And that action begins the moment you stop pointing outward and start turning inward, to the only place where transformation is truly possible. Choose that path. Begin now. Ownership is the gateway to freedom. 6. You don't have to feel ready to begin. One of the greatest myths that keeps people stuck is the idea of readiness. We tell ourselves, I'll start when I feel more confident, when I have more knowledge, when life is more stable, when the timing is right. But here's the truth. That feeling of perfect readiness may never come, and if you wait for it, you will wait forever. The Stoics understood this deeply. Life is not about waiting for the stars to align. It's about acting with courage in the present, even when uncertainty is present. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." One of the ways we waste it? By endlessly postponing action under the illusion that we need to feel fully prepared first. But readiness is not a prerequisite for progress. It's a result of progress. The more you act, the more capable you feel. The more you move forward, the more clarity you gain. The courage comes after the step, not before it. And yet, how many people stay trapped by this lie? They convince themselves that the right time will come. But there is no right time. There is only time, and it is passing. The question is not whether the timing is ideal, but whether you are willing to begin despite the imperfections of the moment. Think about this. Every master was once a beginner. Every expert was once uncertain. Every courageous person has acted in the presence of fear, not in its absence. If they had waited to feel ready, they would have never started. The same is true for you. And here's the deeper truth. Beginning when you don't feel ready is an act of strength. It rewires your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who needs certainty to act, and you start seeing yourself as someone who acts courageously in uncertainty. That shift changes everything. Consider this. Which is more powerful, to act when the path is smooth or to act when the path is uncertain? Which builds more resilience, moving forward when all feels aligned, or moving forward when your hands tremble and your heart doubts? The Stoic does not seek a life free of discomfort. The Stoic seeks mastery of the self within the discomfort. And that mastery is forged through action, imperfect, courageous, present action. So I'll ask you now, what are you waiting to feel ready for? What dream, goal, or necessary change have you been postponing because the voice of doubt says, not yet? And what would shift if you chose to begin today, not because you feel ready, but because you choose to live aligned with courage, not fear? Remember this, you do not have to feel ready to begin. You have to begin to feel ready. Action births readiness. Movement births clarity. Life rewards those who step forward despite uncertainty. So step forward, trembling hands and all. You are more ready than you think. 7. Small daily actions are greater than dramatic resolutions. We live in a world obsessed with grand gestures, the big breakthrough, the massive transformation, the bold resolution that will finally change everything. People love to declare, starting Monday, everything will be different. But too often, it's not. Not because they lack desire, but because they misunderstand how true change is built. The Stoics knew better. They didn't chase the illusion of dramatic reinvention. They understood that identity, the core of who you are, is shaped not by occasional bursts of inspiration, but by the small, consistent actions you repeat day after day. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." In other words, don't wait for the perfect plan. Don't wait for the grand resolution. Begin now, in the ordinary moments, with the small choices. That is where character is forged. And yet, how often do we fall into the trap of thinking that change must be big to be meaningful? We set massive goals, try to overhaul every habit at once, make bold proclamations, and then, when the inevitable setbacks come, we crash. We abandon the path, believing we've failed. But this is not failure. It's a misunderstanding of how growth actually works. Sustainable transformation is slow. It is subtle. It is built through the quiet discipline of showing up, not once in a while, but consistently. Think about this. Brushing your teeth for 2 hours once a month does nothing. Brushing for 2 minutes twice a day protects your health. The same is true in every area of life. It is not the occasional workout that changes your body. It is the routine of movement. It is not the rare moment of brilliance that defines your craft. It is the daily discipline of practice. It is not the once-a-year meditation retreat that brings peace. It is the simple act of returning to presence each day. And here's the deeper truth. Small actions compound. One act of discipline leads to another. One choice aligned with your values reinforces your identity. And over time, these small, seemingly insignificant acts accumulate into transformation far greater than any dramatic resolution could promise. But here's where courage is required. Small actions are not glamorous. They do not attract applause. They do not provide the dopamine hit of bold declarations. They are quiet, humble, often unseen, and that is why many neglect them, seeking the rush of the big breakthrough instead. But the Stoic understands, virtue is built in the ordinary, Integrity is forged in the small moments, and a life of wisdom is crafted not through drama, but through disciplined, deliberate living. So I'll ask you now, where are you chasing dramatic change while neglecting the small daily actions that would truly transform you? What habits, if practiced consistently, would shape the identity you seek? One small choice at a time. Remember this: small daily actions are greater than dramatic resolutions. They are the foundation upon which greatness is quietly built. Choose them, trust them, live them, and watch who you become. 8. Aging is not decline. It's precision. In a culture obsessed with youth, aging is often framed as a loss, a slow erosion of vitality, beauty, opportunity. But the Stoic view could not be more different. To them, aging is not decline, it is refinement. It is the sharpening of wisdom, the distillation of what truly matters, the cutting away of excess to reveal clarity and depth. Seneca once wrote, "As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters." In other words, it's not the number of years that define you, it's what you have forged within those years. And age, far from diminishing you, gives you the opportunity to live with greater precision, with greater alignment to your values. When you are young, you often chase breadth, experiences, achievements, validation, new identities, and this is natural, it is part of growth. But over time, if you are paying attention, something shifts. You begin to crave depth. You begin to value what is essential. You learn to say no, not out of limitation, but out of clarity. And this is where the gift of aging lives. The young attempt through speed what the wise achieve through stillness and focus. As the years pass, you gain the opportunity to refine your attention, your relationships, your time, your pursuits. Life becomes less about chasing and more about creating, less about proving and more about being. But only if you embrace this shift. Many resist it. They cling to youth, to external validation, to old identities that no longer fit. And in doing so, they miss the power of the stage of life they are now in. The Stoic path invites a different choice, to meet each season of life with presence and purpose, to see aging not as something to fear, but as something to honor, to recognize that while the body may slow, the mind can deepen, if you choose to cultivate it. And here's something profound. As you age, your actions carry more weight. A kind word from a person of wisdom lands deeper than one from someone still chasing their own worth. A choice made from decades of reflection ripples wider than one made in youthful impulse. Aging grants you the ability to live with greater impact if you embrace the precision it offers. Think of a sculptor. The early stages of carving are rough, broad strokes, heavy cuts. But as the sculpture takes shape, the work becomes more deliberate. Finer tools are used. Each movement matters more. This is the opportunity of aging, to shift from broad strokes to masterful precision in how you live, love, serve, and lead. So I'll ask you now, how are you viewing your current season of life? Are you resisting its lessons or embracing its gifts? Are you chasing lost youth or cultivating present wisdom? Remember this: aging is not decline. It is precision. It is the invitation to refine who you are, to let go of what no longer serves, and to live each day with greater clarity and depth. Embrace it, honor it, and let the wisdom of your years become your greatest strength. 9. Comparison is the thief of inner renewal. Few things drain your spirit more quietly and more consistently than comparison. And today, comparison is everywhere. You open your phone and within seconds, you see someone fitter, wealthier, more accomplished, more admired. It seems harmless, just information, but left unchecked, it corrodes, it steals joy, it clouds clarity, and most dangerously, it blinds you to your own unique path of renewal and growth. The Stoics warned against this trap long before social media existed. They taught that true peace and progress come from inner alignment, from comparing yourself only to your past self, not to the curated images or achievements of others. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Self-indulgence means tying it to the things that happen to you. Sanity means tying it to your own actions." In other words, the only comparison that matters is this: are you living more in alignment with your values today than you did yesterday? Are you becoming a deeper, wiser, freer version of yourself? Not in relation to others, but in relation to your own potential. Because here's the truth. Everyone's path is different, different starting points, different strengths, different seasons of life. And when you compare timelines, you ignore these differences. You rob yourself of the very insight and growth that comes from honoring your journey. And here's what happens when comparison takes root. Your focus shifts outward. You begin to live reactively, chasing standards that may not even reflect what you truly value. You begin to measure worth by external markers, rather than by the quiet integrity of your actions. You lose the ability to renew yourself authentically because your energy is consumed by keeping up or falling short of others' expectations. But renewal, true, lasting renewal, is an inward process. It requires stillness, honesty, the willingness to ask, what is calling me forward now? What is asking to be released? What is ready to be born in me? You cannot hear these questions, let alone answer them, if your mind is noisy with comparison. The Stoic chooses a different focus, not "am I ahead?" but "am I aligned?" Not "am I winning?" but "am I becoming?" And this subtle shift changes everything, because when you stop comparing timelines, you reclaim your own. You free your energy to pursue what is true for you. You allow your growth to unfold in its own rhythm, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, always honest. And you remember this essential truth: you are not behind. You are where you need to be, to learn what you need to learn, to become who you are meant to become. The race is not with others. It never was. It is with your own highest potential. So I'll ask you now, where has comparison crept into your life? Where are you measuring your worth by someone else's path? And what would shift if you chose today to release that burden and to walk your own with full presence and integrity? Remember this: comparison is the thief of inner renewal. Guard your mind, honor your path, and trust that the most profound transformation happens not when you chase others, but when you come home to yourself. 10. The present is always the right time to become who you truly are. There's a dangerous myth we often tell ourselves, that the version of life we long for belongs to some distant future. When I've healed enough, when I've learned more, when circumstances are better, when I'm more confident. And with each postponement, we push our true becoming further down the road. But here's the unshakable truth: the present, not some imagined future, is always the right time to become who you are meant to be. The Stoics understood this in their bones. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think, not as a morbid warning, but as a profound invitation to presence. To realize that waiting for the perfect time is a form of self-deception. and that the only place life can be lived, shaped, and transformed is here, now. And yet, how many of us stay trapped in this future chasing? We say, "I'll start living more intentionally once I have more clarity. I'll speak my truth once I feel braver. I'll align with my purpose once things settle down." But life is movement. Things rarely settle. The clarity comes after the step, not before it. The courage grows through the choice, not prior to it. The present is not a placeholder. It is the canvas. It is the forge where your character, your values, your legacy are shaped. Each moment is an invitation to align more fully with who you truly are, and to shed the versions of self that no longer fit. And here's the paradox. The longer you wait to become, the harder it feels to start. Delay breeds inertia. Inertia breeds self-doubt. But action, even small, imperfect action, dissolves that fog. Each choice you make today to live in alignment with your deeper values strengthens your identity. And as identity shifts, so does life. It's not about making grand declarations or radical changes overnight. It's about asking moment by moment, what would my truest self choose right now? And then choosing it in how you speak, in how you treat others, in how you care for your body, in how you focus your mind, in how you meet adversity. The Stoic does not waste today waiting for tomorrow. They recognize that life is a series of present moments, and that postponing becoming is ultimately postponing life itself. So I'll ask you now, what version of yourself are you waiting to someday step into? And what would shift if you chose today to begin embodying that self, not perfectly, but intentionally, here and now? Because you do not become your highest self by waiting. You become by choosing, in the present, again and again. And this is the beautiful truth. You are always one choice away from greater alignment, one breath away from presence, one action away from stepping closer to who you are truly meant to be. So stop waiting. The present is not a rehearsal. It is life. It is yours. Live it, fully, courageously, now. So here we are. You've heard the lessons. You've felt the truths. Now comes the most important part, what you choose to do next. Because none of this is about theory. It's about life, about the moments ahead of you, today, tomorrow, this week, where you will be faced with a choice, to remain tethered to the past, or to step into renewal, to postpone, or to begin, to live in alignment with the person you are becoming, or to wait for a permission slip that will never come. And this is what the Stoics would remind you. Every moment holds within it the power to begin again, not someday, not when the conditions are perfect, not when you feel ready. Now, the past. It has no power unless you keep breathing life into it. The future? It remains unwritten. The present? It is the forge where you choose who you will become. And yes, it's never too late. Not to heal, not to change, not to awaken to what truly matters, not to live with greater courage, greater clarity, greater presence. The only thing required is the choice to begin, and that choice is always within your reach. So as you move forward from this episode, I invite you to hold this thought close. Who I have been does not limit who I can become. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are your next choice. And the power of that choice lives right here, in this moment. If this episode spoke to you, if it stirred something in you, I encourage you. Stay on this path. Subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded that it's never too late. And above all, act. Don't just absorb wisdom. Embody it. Live it. Because the life you seek isn't waiting for you somewhere out there. It's waiting for you in the choices you make today. Begin now and become.